Despite the military presence and diplomatic efforts of the United States and other Western nations intended to de-escalate the current conflict in the Middle East, the threat of full-up regional war has grown in the last few days. This channel's last report on the conflict documented the 25-plane Israeli strike on July 21st that hit Houthi targets in western Yemen, including the fuel storage tanks at the port of Al-Hudaydah. That strike was in retaliation for the Houthi single drone attack on July 19th on an apartment building a block away from the American consulate in Tel Aviv that killed 1 and injured 10. After the Israeli Air Force strike, the Houthis vowed that they would retaliate by striking Israel again. I'm sure you, like me, are frustrated with how wrong the media can be at times. So let me recommend something that I use as I work to get it right while creating current events episodes: ground news. Let's take a look at one of the topics I'm teeing up in this episode, which is Iran's response to the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Ground News aggregates the articles on the topic. In this case, there are 130 of them, and gives you a breakdown of the political bias, which is based on ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations, how factual they are, also based on ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations, and this is important, who owns each publication. When I'm doing episode research with Ground News, my first priority is choosing articles with high factuality. So in this case, I'll read this AP story that happens to be at Haaretz, noting that Haaretz is owned by the Schoberg media conglomerate and that their coverage skews left. Next, I'll look for one that also has high factuality, but skews center or right to make sure I'm getting a balanced look at the facts surrounding the situation. So here I'll read this one by Channel News Asia, an outlet run by the government of Singapore with center bias. You can't get this kind of detailed breakdown at a glance anywhere else. Go to ground.news/Ward Carroll to stay fully informed. Subscribe through my link and get 40% off unlimited access, which is the Vantage plan that I use. That link is in the episode description, so check it out. Then on July 27th, the Israelis targeted threats across their northern front using aircraft to hit a Hezbollah military compound in Farkila after IDing a militant cell entering the building. Security sources in Lebanon said the strike killed 4 fighters belonging to, quote, different armed groups, end quote, including Hezbollah. Hezbollah responded to the Farkila attack by firing 30 rockets, both Katyusha and Iranian-made Farak 1s from the village of Chiba in southern Lebanon into the Golan Heights, which is territory captured from Syria by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War. One of the Farak 1s landed in a sports complex in the Druze neighborhood of Majel Shams, killing 12 youths who were playing soccer on the AstroTurf field there. The Druze are an Arab minority who practice an offshoot of Islam. Although Hezbollah denied responsibility for the attack on the Druze community, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the group would pay a heavy price, quote, the kind it has thus far not paid, end quote. 2 days later, on July 30th, an Israeli airstrike hit a building in a suburb of Beirut, killing Fuad Shukr, a key military advisor to Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Prime Minister Netanyahu acknowledged that Israel was behind the strike, and he described Shukr as one of the most wanted terrorists in the world. Shukr had a long history as a terrorist and had been wanted for years for his involvement in the Beirut Marine Corps barracks bombing in 1983 that killed 241 American service members. Then, at 2 in the morning on July 31st, Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran to attend the inauguration of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian was killed along with his bodyguard by an explosion that destroyed the guest house Haniyeh was staying in. Intelligence reports suggest that the explosion was caused by a bomb that had been planted 2 months before that was detonated remotely once it was verified that Haniyeh was there. While Israel has not acknowledged responsibility for the killing, the attack has all the earmarks of the sort of targeted killings Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service, has carried out in the past, like in 2020 when they used a remote-controlled artificial intelligence robotic weapon to assassinate top Iranian nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. And last January, Mossad chief David Barnea said that his service was obligated to pursue leaders of Hamas after the October 7th attacks in southern Israel. Barnea said, quote, it will take time, like after the Munich massacre of Israeli athletes by terrorists at the '72 Olympics, but our hands will catch them wherever they are, end quote. The assassination of the Hamas political leader, who resided in Qatar and not the Gaza Strip for security reasons, is also very embarrassing to Iran's elite Republican Guard, who had responsibility for the security of the compound where the bomb went off. At a mass public protest on the killing of Haniyeh the next day, where the crowd chanted "Death to Israel, death to America," Iranian President Pezeshkian declared, quote, "The Zionists will soon see the consequences of their cowardly and terrorist act," end quote. Iran's conservative parliamentary speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, said Iran, quote, "will certainly carry out the supreme leader's order to avenge Haniyeh, and it is our duty to respond at the right time and in the right place," end quote. That sentiment was echoed by senior Hamas figure Khalil Ahaya, who said, quote, "We will pursue Israel until it is uprooted from the land of Palestine," end quote. Meanwhile, against this tension, key members of the international community called for de-escalation and a focus on securing a ceasefire in Gaza. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the strikes in Tehran and Beirut represented a dangerous escalation. All efforts, he said, should be leading to a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages taken during Hamas's October 7th attack on southern Israel, which began nearly 10 months of war at this point. The Prime Minister of Qatar, which has been the key ceasefire broker, said Haniyeh's killing had thrown the whole mediation process into doubt. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani said, quote, "How can mediation succeed when one party assassinates the negotiator on the other side," end quote. For America's part, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Thursday called on all parties in the Middle East to stop escalatory actions, while White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said that the ceasefire in Gaza is still an imperative, but that the twin killings of Haniyeh and Sukur don't help regional tensions. We'll keep our eye on this volatile situation and provide updates as the information becomes available. So if you're not already a subscriber, become one so you do not miss anything going forward. And in the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.